Hey everybody, welcome back to Is It Kino Slash Movies, a podcast about the act of Columbo. I am Simian Jimmy, joined today for a very special episode that I've been anticipating and hoping to do for well over a year. All about Columbo, baby. Joined today by my co-host in life and podcasting, Erich McCoy.
Just one more thing. My wife, she loves that show, Is It Kino? She always wanted to know, when you're recording the episodes, what do you really like? What do you really think about the movies? Is it really what you're talking about or what?
Well, we'll get into that, but we're also joined by the movies duo of Lowres and Hans.
Yes, it is such an exciting time to be talking about Columbo. It seems like everyone has started watching Columbo in the past year and a half, I want to say, after nobody was watching Columbo.
I am guilty of that myself, and I might know the reason why.
What is the reason why, and how did you discover Columbo?
So Rian Johnson made this show called Poker Face that I really enjoyed, and then I found out it was kind of a ripoff or inspired by Columbo. And I've been hearing about Columbo my whole life, just in different media. He's always referenced. He's a figure everybody knows maybe, but has never really watched. And I got addicted real quick. And there's Hans.
These shows are infinitely watchable. I discovered Columbo. I had to be a pallbearer for my ex-girlfriend's grandfather, and I went to Pennsylvania, and the night before, Columbo happened to be on the television, and I was caught off guard by the fact that it took Columbo 40 minutes to show up in his own show.
Right.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, and I was investigating who killed him.
Yeah, Columbo is, like, for this generation, it might be poison, because it's the anti-TikTok. Like, it's every episode is feature length, it's a little bit slow-paced at times, and you just really have to sit down and pay attention. And I feel like most people my age or younger might not be down for Columbo.
Yeah, it's a little surprising that more people have become aware of the show and at least seem like fans of the show, because it is so slow burn and it requires that attention to detail to be able to enjoy it at full capacity, especially the older ones. It gets a little goofy when you get into the 1980s and the 90s and they swap networks, and it's still very good. All those episodes are very watchable. But the 1970s run of Columbo, I think, is especially something magical.
It's also the opposite of what you get now with the flawed protagonist, right? Our hero here, he looks like he stinks. His hair is always a mess.
Wow.
His clothes are always a mess. In this episode, our introduction to him, he's trying to get his cigar from the floor in the cat or his car, I think it was, and it's just a filthy
Not
cigar.
even his car, it's like the police commissioner's car. He dropped his cigar under his seat.
And he's not handsome. He's not the handsome detective that you would get in a modern day series.
I need to execute Hans. Like, everything he's saying is pissing me off right now.
No, but
I
Hans
aspire to be Columbo. Are you kidding me? That's my goal.
Right. He's totally right, because that is Columbo's like entire thing, is that he's somebody that the killers can kind of like brush off and be like, this guy doesn't really know anything. This guy with the rumpled coat is coming up to me, asking me all these questions. I can just kind of like lie to him or like tell him something. Then he's not going to follow up. But no, he comes back. He's like, can I use your phone for a second here?
Well, yeah, Columbo's goal is always to lower the guard of who he's investigating and to make himself seem a bit more dopey than he really is. But to say he's like ugly or unkempt, oh, Hans, how dare you?
No. What I'm saying is I'm just comparing it to like modern day productions, right? Where you're not gonna have a
5'5" man.
Well, everybody looks like
that.
a star. Everybody looks like a clean cut, fresh, just out of their trailer actor.
Nobody has
looks
a glass eye these days.
Yeah.
They look 14, first of all, even if they're 40. Everyone's kind of like brown cheeked, and but Columbo, compared to everything you see now, even if you have a middle-aged main character, it's going to be a Clooney level handsome, so that he gets the women in. Here, it's just charisma, and it's just his ability and his autism that allows him to solve these complicated cases with like the where you don't see it coming at all. And I think that's the thing that appeals to me the most, where it's just just like a lot of the shows from the 2000s where it would be is this character in all of these different wacky situations, like a house, and you have a grumpy doctor and we're gonna put him in this wacky situation to see how he acts. You don't really get that anymore, where it's main character personality based show like this. And that's one of the things that appeals to me the most, that he's just he's likable, but I don't know if you're supposed to like him. It's just kind of like,
how couldn't you?
And if you're the specific type of, I can see how he could be annoying. I can see how he could be
if you murdered your wife, pretty annoying.
He's only annoying to murderers. He gets on pretty well with everybody else.
I agree with what you're saying, Hans. I think today, if you were going to have a Columbo type character, it would still be through the modern filter, and you would have, who's the unconventional good-looking actor of the day? It's Adam Driver. Yeah, he's got long hair and moles and a big nose, but he's also got six-pack abs, and he's a former Marine, right? So
and he's built. He's like a brick house.
You don't have the tiny little Polish Jewish man who is 50 years old and finally making it in the industry.
Well, are you guys familiar?
Seth Green is not going to star in a Columbo remake.
No, that would be fucking horrible. That's why. No one wants to see Seth Green even do a voice, let alone appear on film.
Well, would you guys argue that Monk from TV's Monk is any more handsome than Columbo? Because that's kind of like the modern day equivalent, right?
He's definitely uglier than Columbo.
Yeah, so there you go.
When did Monk come? When did Monk end?
Monk ended last year. Actually, they did like a straight to streaming movie to end his story.
Well, but that's not ending last year.
It was like the 2000s. It was like 2008.
It came out last year. I don't know what to tell you.
They brought it back because I guess they run out of old shows to revive, because the fuck is clamoring for a Monk revival, right?
Probably my grandpa.
We'll get a Columbo revival soon. Don't worry. It's going to come to Peacock in the next 2 or 3 years, and you're going to get they'll do the Quantum Leap thing, and they'll cast a handsome Asian man. It'll be Charles Melton as Columbo.
I did just see Quantum Leap was canceled after 2 seasons. So that's the fate of the new Columbo.
How disappointing. I just discovered the original Quantum Leap recently on archive.org, and it's fun. It's fun enough. It's no Columbo, that's for sure.
I want to see Columbo get into some sci-fi shenanigans. I think he could handle it.
I think there was a great opportunity, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. Hans, you're probably a little familiar with Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Yeah.
I think there could have been a great crossover there between Columbo and Kolchak. They were on the same network, equally schlubby guys as detectives. It could have really worked and been something fun.
I don't know. I think I would have liked a body cop film with Ernest and Columbo. I think
that's really slumming it. Ernest, who's the No, that would be
maybe Ernest. Ernest committed the murder, and then Columbo has to.
Have you guys seen the Peter Falk film? I think Mikey and Nicky, or Nicky and Mikey.
Yeah.
If you watch that, imagining that he's Columbo, there's so many funny scenes of him like threatening people and yelling, "Oh, you motherfucker, fuck you!" And, like punching women in the face. I imagine every Peter Falk role has Columbo, and it makes everything better.
Well, what's great about him is he furnished his own wardrobe for everything he acted in. So all these trench coats you were criticizing, Hans, are actually his trench coats.
Oh,
well, he's so small they didn't have any like man-sized, clothes available. He had to bring his own.
When you criticize Columbo, you're actually criticizing Peter Falk. So just
yeah. Should
just
we
remember that?
For the 90% of my listeners who have never seen Columbo, should we kind of describe what an episode might be like? And we did watch one, but we'll get into that specifically later. But basically,
sure.
Columbo isn't really even the main character of any given episode. Like the murderer kind of is, because like Lowres is saying, it takes Columbo about half an hour into these 90-minute episodes to actually show up. And unlike what you might expect from a detective mystery show, we know who did it. The opening scenes of the show, we watch the murder happen. Like, the mystery is not the mystery. The mystery is how Columbo solves the mystery. And like, we know everything. The dramatic irony is on Columbo here.
Yes, and that does eventually change a bit more as you get into the later seasons, and they shift the series into more of a movie of the week or movie of the month. type of series. But for these 1970s episodes, it is really about who's the main guest star of the episode. Is it Dick Van Dyke? Is it John Cassavetes? Is it Martin Sheen? And then Columbo is the foil that is introduced. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a strange narrative choice if you've only consumed modern things too, because you get more time with the villains and you get more time with the crime and what happened, and then I guess it's such an interesting character and so personality based where you can just drop him in at any time, and then he will take over the show. Because I'm remembering that Cassavetes episode, which is one of the other ones that I've seen. I haven't seen many episodes, and yeah, for like the first 40 minutes it's all about him and it's all about what he did, and it's all about just like in this one where we have the commissioner and then the other guy with bad hair with the bad toupee, and half an hour in is when you start getting the title character of the story, and I don't think that's something that you conventionally see on a TV show, especially now where you have to grab the audience's attention immediately. For the rotating cast to be the main cast, it's not something that you get all the time.
Yeah, it leans incredibly hardly on like one or two guest actors who have never been on the show before. This is the only episode they're going to be on, and most of the time they do a pretty good job of like letting you know who the character is, what they're embroiled in. I just watched the Johnny Cash episode the other day, where he murders the women that he's performing with and then parachutes out of the plane. Like it's just so wild seeing Johnny Cash do all these things.
Now, Erich, I gotta correct you on something. Sometimes these actors do come back, but they come back in different roles.
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen's the only one I can think of. Somebody else came back.
Shatner too, right?
William Shatner came back, I think, 20 years after the fact.
Oh wow,
with a beard on, like a very clearly
he looks
fake beard
incredibly different then. 20 years later.
I think the top recurring killer is Patrick McGoohan, who appears maybe about 4 times.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I did not notice. I must be face blind or something.
Now, do they always return as a different killer, or do they sometimes become the victim occasionally?
I think they always come back as the killer. Because you want to have the title credit there. You want to be the guest star.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So this is the first time he
That's
appeared,
young Shatner.
right?
Yes,
Yep.
and then
there's
the mustache does a lot.
It does, yeah.
So he could potentially be in the Columbo reboot. We'll get him a third time.
I guess, yes, he could be.
Oh wow, is he still alive? Or
He's like 92.
He's like formaldehyde every
to
night.
space.
He's tweeting right now.
Yeah, he did go to space, didn't he?
He did, yes.
Wow.
He could murder someone in space.
I would love to see Columbo up in a space hotel, bumping around in 0G.
There was no oxygen in the room when you...
Yeah, go ahead.
What made you pick this episode?
So this episode, A Friend Indeed, just happens to be my favorite one. It's the one I was most enthralled by as I watched it, and I think it has the best final scene of any Columbo. Like I'm on the edge of my seat, and I love the gambit that Columbo pulls, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but do you disagree? Because when I told you I wanted to do this episode, I was shocked to discover that you have a movie poster of this episode framed in your home.
Yeah, I do. It didn't come to mind as one of my favorites. I actually just bought the movie poster on a whim because I discovered that they would release episodes of Columbo in Europe as theatrical feature films. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool to own one of these foreign posters? And it just so happened to be A Friend Indeed. And I had a memory of the episode, but sitting down today, it had been a while since I watched it, and I really came away appreciating many of...
Oh, you cut out, Lowres. We can't hear you.
Oh, your sound.
Am I back? Am I okay?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. I wound up appreciating many of the differences that are found in this episode that make it stand out from all the rest. I feel like there's a lot of peripheral elements in play with A Friend Indeed that you don't find in many of these. And I think that might have something to do with the fact that Peter Falk recruited one of his good friends, actor Ben Gazzara,
as the director,
who directs this episode, and he had worked with him on a very great film, one of my favorite films, John Cassavetes' Husbands. And Cassavetes plays the killer in Etude to Black, which is, I think, earlier in the season for this season. Season 2 is really the return where things pop off and it becomes like a standout show for NBC, I believe it was on at the time.
And Lowres is not joking. If you go to his Letterboxd, you can list your 4 favorite movies, and he only put 1. It's just Husbands.
Yes, that's right.
As I say, I just watched the Cassavetes movie Killing of a Chinese Bookie the other week, and like Ben Gazzara's in that, and he's just such a great presence, and I'm sure that he brings some of that like very like dirty feeling sense to this episode. A lot of these episodes have like criminal elements, or they've got something going on that's suspect, but this one felt a little bit darker to me, and I think it's because the killer is killing multiple times, and he's kind of like embroiled in a bunch of like schemes, kind of. So it feels like it's a bit more involved, and it's not just one murder that's being covered up for, kind of.
And I think the most important thing.
He has like an evil magician facial hair too. That
yes.
But I think the most important thing is that this police commissioner who is the murderer is also Columbo's boss. Like he's up against not just like the whole system, but like his own employer who can take him off the case and fire him at any time. And even at the end, like he says, "I'm going to get your badge for this. You're done." And if Columbo's like gambit didn't work, he would just be fucked. He'd be out of a job.
Yeah.
So it's the highest stakes of any Columbo I can think of.
I would love to know, when Columbo goes to set up the thing he does at the end, how many other police officers are in on it, or like is he basically like going off and doing this on his own, and then like he has to then involve other police officers to kind of witness. But like, yeah, it's an interesting setup for the entire thing there at the end, when he's going after his own superior.
It might be the one instance where you do see somebody in the police department who is culpable for these murders. It makes it stand out in that way as well. You also have 2 different people in play here as the antagonists of the series, and a fall guy. There's never a fall guy in any of these episodes, as far as I can remember anyway, where someone is being pinned for the murders.
Yeah, it's extra tricky for Columbo to solve because the 2 guys are using each other as alibis to get away with their own individual crimes. So it's just a big knot that Columbo has to expertly unweave while the murderer is literally looking over his shoulder at work the whole time.
Dead air. That's great.
Yeah.
Somebody killed this air.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm still finishing up the episode. Like 5 minutes to go, so I'm
my God.
in silence.
Well, we gave it away.
Oh, fuck.
Columbo.
I'm getting there.
Columbo rents out a different apartment, sets it up as
I'm like, I hope Mumkey spoils it because it's happening right now. So
Erich, to answer your question, did any of the cops help Columbo set up this like fake apartment? I think the answer has to be no, because he says the only 2 people who knew this address were you and me.
Right. Oh my God. So like
he set up the bed and all the clothes and the beer bottles. Columbo just did that all by himself that morning.
Oh my God. And then like, so does he like tell the police commissioner and then a bunch of other cops, I need you to meet me at this possible scene, come with me, and then like when the eventual like truth comes out, he can have those other cops like see what's happened. Like it's just such a there's a lot to unpack for anybody who's outside of like Columbo's point of view there.
Yeah, if he's not secretly filming this, it's almost his word against the other guys.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the idea of him secretly filming it, knowing it's 1974, and he's going to have to rig up a very loud film camera.
A huge camera. Like, I'm sorry you didn't notice this. I got a camera hidden over there.
Yeah. I think one of the...
Don't mind them. They live here too.
One of the things that elevates some of the second, third, fourth seasons of Columbo in the 1970s is the fact that Peter Falk had gone off and worked with John Cassavetes. And there's a book that came out maybe a year or two ago, and I read most of it. I wound up checking out, I think, like 3/4 of the way, and not out of disinterest, but just because I was very occupied at the time. And he came back to Columbo having done these indie films with Cassavetes, and he wanted to reapproach the series completely in terms of how they were shooting things. And I think this episode is probably indicative of his experience having done that and then bringing these sensibilities to that. And apparently he was a major pain behind the scenes and would try to get into the editing room, and people would pretend like they weren't in the rooms, like they would lock the door and change the blinds. And
they were hiding from Peter Falk?
Down the hall. Yes, yeah. Because he tried to be so hands-on with the editing, and it annoyed everybody. So he became Columbo, essentially, behind the scenes.
Did he have like specific things he wanted done? Like, did he want things cut quicker or shorter? Or
I think he was trying to veer away from the procedural nature of the show and make it a little more cinematic, I guess.
Wow.
Make it a little more explorative.
I think this almost makes me appreciate Peter Falk as Columbo more, that he is so dedicated and committed to this that he like wants final say on the cut. Like, he's not just taking this as a gig. He's not just the actor and shows up and does the lines and leaves. Like, he wants to be hands-on in every part of this production, it sounds like.
It kind of makes sense to me because every episode is basically feature length. That's basically 90 minutes per episode. And so when you're making that big of a production for 5 or 6 times a year or whatever, you'd want to make sure that every episode like seemed like its own individual movie, basically. So if you're bringing a lot of those like concepts and cinematic techniques from other movie making, you'd want to make sure that that like found its way into the, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the big thing with Columbo too is exactly what you said, where most of these types of shows, especially in the future, would be weekly episodes that would be an hour long, and it would be a very rigid structure. Columbo would drop typically once a month, and it would be treated like a movie of the week.
Yeah.
And I think it even had won by its 3rd season an Emmy for Outstanding Limited Series. So they hadn't considered it like an ongoing thing, just a special occasion sort of programming. And you had more time to dedicate to what are we going to do with this? How are we going to make it stand out? And so that sort of indulging Peter Falk's need to make it something that stands out from the rest of the procedural television of that time, I think really, it flares up and you can see it here.
And it's like, it was NBC at the time and then it moved to ABC, correct?
I think so. It might have been, they might have moved it to CBS in the 80s or 90s or so, and that is when it became even more infrequent. If you start taking a look, there's probably like 250 episodes of Columbo. I have a box set of all of them on DVD.
Oh, wow.
You start to see that, okay, some of the seasons become like 4 episodes long. Some of them are 3 years apart, 8 years apart. And the 1970s run, I think in particular, is really where you see some of the best writing and certainly the best actors in the mix here. Even some of the no-names in this episode, like Richard Kiley, who plays the central antagonist, he's very transatlantic and theatrical in like a mid-20th century actor sort of way, and that's very enjoyable. But he's also great as the villain.
Yeah, he's amazing. I really dug him. I didn't realize he was the voice of the tour guide in Jurassic Park that the character like shouts out as like, this is a get we got Richard Kiley to voice and he's also in the book. They like mention in the book that that's the voice of the tour guide, and then he's also in the movie.
Do you guys have any favorite episodes that come to your mind that you want to briefly shout out?
Well, on the first day of reshoots on Mass State Lottery, when we settled into the Airbnb, I made sure to try to set the vibe by putting on Etude in Black, which is the John Cassavetes episode of Columbo. It precedes this one. I think it was the premiere episode of season 2. I don't know if that was the order it aired in, but I know that they had shot that first, and Peter Falk had harassed John Cassavetes into making an appearance. He's like, could you, and this isn't the last time he would essentially call on Cassavetes to do him a favor. Cassavetes directed what would wind up being his final film and is nothing like any of Cassavetes' other movies. Big Trouble, which was a comedy starring Peter Falk and I think Alan Arkin from 1986 or so. It's very different from the rest of his movies. But Cassavetes begrudgingly starred in the episode, and having these two creative egos on set became a problem for everyone who's just showing up and doing their job. And it's like, oh, we're just doing the TV show today. But then you have auteur and then the aspiring auteur through Peter Falk here. And that is probably by far my favorite episode. It has some of the best cinematography, some of the best acting, most fun acting. There's a lot of scenes where they're just ad-libbing with one another and going off the cuff and ignoring the script that made into the final cut. And there's two different versions of that episode as well, because I guess there's a 90-minute one and then there's a 70 or 60-minute one as well. And I don't know if I've seen the shorter cut or why they did that. Maybe it was just for syndication, but it's definitely my favorite.
I'm partial to the A Stitch in Crime, I believe, which is the one with Leonard Nimoy playing a doctor or a surgeon, I think, who murders someone in order to get a better position. And then Columbo has a like special stitch right in his coat. And then at the end of the episode, he's like, "You planted it on me, didn't you?" And he pulls out this. Oh, it's so good.
And Hans has never finished an episode, so he doesn't really have an opinion.
Yeah, this was his first episode.
Hans, your favorite is, I believe, the one you just watched, right?
Yeah.
And he's
Hans,
muted.
you're muted.
Now we can't hear you.
Yeah, you're muted, Hans. Everybody's having mic troubles.
Still muted.
This podcast.
Hunt.
There you
Should
go.
be better. Oh,
Okay.
Comes back to say cunt.
No, I've seen the full Cassavetes one because we were going to record an episode on that one. So that's, I think, the only other one that I've seen. I've finished this one already, by the way. So from those two, I really like the Cassavetes one. I think that was my introduction to it. So I'm sure that as I watch more episodes and see more guest stars that I'm sure I'll recognize from old things that I used to watch, I'd get more into it. But for now, from those two, I like the Cassavetes one more. Maybe because I've seen it twice, as opposed to this one that I've only seen once. Yeah.
I definitely think that they gain a lot by watching them more than once. You kind of like see the entire machinations from the beginning, and you kind of get a better sense of what Columbo is doing once he starts picking things up.
The biggest thing you can get from watching any episode of Columbo is the lack of need to talk down to the audience or over-explain things to the audience. They clearly are catering towards, I guess, a more elevated intelligence or
well, could it be that in the 60s and 70s people were just better at consuming media and maybe smarter in general?
Yes, of course. I definitely think that's a thing, but you can still watch like Hawaii 5-0 from that era, and it's not that, the writing isn't too far off from CSI Miami in 2007. Yeah. So, but I think there's like a lack of hand-holding, and maybe that's just because you do see what all the steps taken in committing the murder and then covering up the murder and then the murder unfolding itself. There's a more respect given, I think, towards the intelligence of the viewer.
Something that I enjoyed as seeing the show kind of as like a time capsule of history is that every now and then Columbo is not afraid to embrace new technologies, and like whatever the new technology of the day was, he'll ask questions and learn about it because it just so happens to be relevant to the case of the week. And like there are some episodes where there are wild pieces of technology that were probably useful for like 3 or 4 years in human history and then were abandoned for new things. So just like binging through the whole show in the last year and a half, you really see how far we've come and all these things I never would have experienced. And I wish I could think of a specific one, but some things were so strange that I can't even like imagine the functionality of it today.
Well, that is one thing that I think audiences have become better at watching these kinds of crime procedurals because of how many crime procedurals they've watched. So there's a lot of like fingerprinting and DNA analysis, and all of these like criminology things are just common parlance now. Whereas sometimes in the past you would have had to explain like, yeah, we're taking the fingerprinting, we're then going to run it through the lab.
Well, not even that, Erich, but I mean, in modern day, when you watch like CSI, And there's that famous hacking scene where two people are typing on the same keyboard to hack faster. There's no attention to detail. Like they're just it's pseudoscience, mumbo jumbo, fucking bullshit. Whereas I feel like with Columbo, there was that attention. They wanted it to actually be realistic. And like, how could somebody actually use this piece of technology to commit a murder? It's not just fucking insanity.
It probably comes from the fact that back in the day, you didn't really have many options. So your audience was more everyone, as opposed to who the fuck is watching CSI in 2024 that's going to care about that. You know, it's not us autists that care about little details like that. It's just old people that, you know, it's.
Yeah, my grandma probably thinks you can hack faster with two people on a keyboard.
Yeah, so that's probably why. You know, back in the day, you had 3 channels, and 8 p.m. slot is Columbo, so everyone's watching Columbo.
Oh,
so
what a dream! Could you imagine a world where 1/3 of people watching TV are watching Columbo? Like, oh my, take me back.
Columbo references to anyone in your life, and they would just instantly get it.
Yeah, take me back. Lay wrong generation. But Erich, what were you saying?
I'm trying to think. So like, I've only seen the 70s episodes. There's a gap between the 70s era and a bit into the 80s and then the 90s. Is that right?
If I remember right, they have the episodes consistently airing throughout the 1970s. Kino Lorber actually just released the cool
I just got that set. Yeah.
Nice. And I think it comes back on a different network in the late 1980s. I think around 1987 or 1988. They start putting out movie of the week episodes of Columbo, and then those are popular, and they decide, okay, why don't we just make this a regular thing? And it goes into the 90s, so you start seeing like they couldn't get as good of guest stars. There's no Vincent Price or Martin Sheen caliber of actor that shows up, but they do get like Rue McClanahan from the Golden Girls for an episode. Clearly you get William Shatner back. There's some pretty bad, like poorly written episodes in that later run of Columbo's, unfortunately. And there's one episode in particular I really, really despise. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's the one episode where Columbo is wrong.
Oh, man.
And I don't want to spoil it too much.
Is that the one with the limo?
Limo.
There's like they hid the body under the limo seats, because I think he was wrong for a little bit, but then ended up getting it right. But are you saying he was wrong even at the end?
Flat wrong. Yes. So there's an episode where, and I don't know the name of this actor, but he was a recurring actor on season 2 of Twin Peaks, and he's English or Irish. And he's just very smug. He's like, Columbo, I didn't kill that girl. And he's just dunking on Columbo left and right. And then at the very end of the episode, it turns out the girl's not even dead. She just had to get away. She left. She was.
I remember that. But then that dude ends up killing her anyway. And then Columbo, he was like right, but he was early to being right.
Like, maybe I bowed out of the episode early. I don't remember that happening.
No, yeah, because she was in on it. It was all like a big scheme, drop her off at the airport. She's wearing a disguise, and then like once Columbo's proven wrong, the guy fucking kills her.
Columbo saw the future. He knew she was going to be murdered.
Yeah, you doubted Columbo, Lowres, but he was right all along.
I'm gonna have to go back to this episode. Maybe I did fuck it up and jump out 10 minutes before the ending and credits there. But that episode's still my least favorite.
Columbo Cries Wolf, is that the episode?
Yeah, I think it is. Yes.
They tell you right in the title.
There's also, I think the first one, when it's rebooted and we get like old gray Columbo for the first time, he's like investigating a magician who uses a guillotine to kill people. And I think it's very Rusty Cage coded. So go check out that one. Not particularly a good one, but if you're a fan of guillotines.
Have any of you guys seen the last episode of Columbo? Columbo Loves the Nightlife.
No, I haven't. It looks like Matthew Rhys is one of the guest stars on there, which is great.
I've got 2 episodes left, and I really should have finished the series before this podcast, but I will be getting to it soon. But why?
Well,
what about it?
There's plenty of room to revisit Columbo. There's so many great nuggets in the series, but that episode strikes me as particularly unfortunate because you mentioned he comes back and he's grayer, but like in that episode in particular, he seems very old and very out of it.
Man. That was 2003, I think. What year did he die? Like 2010?
He died around like 2009, 2010. It was pretty shortly thereafter, but I know he was suffering Alzheimer's at the time, and his memory was getting worse and worse. And they had more episodes of Columbo planned, but he couldn't remember his lines.
Oh,
and
that sucks.
It's pretty brutal. And you watch that episode, and he just seems so like this needs to be put to an end. This needs to stop.
They couldn't give him a Bruce Willis earpiece. Feed him lines.
Johnny Depp, like.
Yeah.
I guess not.
What the fuck is that?
But just seeing this very old man in a nightclub that has Matrix lighting, and it feels like the opening scene of Blade. It just feels like very. Columbo does not belong here. Columbo.
Is that the punk rock? The episode where he goes to a punk rock show, and everyone's listening to the old man. Everyone stops fighting and shit, and everyone's just, let's just listen to this old man. It's a punk show.
Stop moshing. Listen to Peter Falk.
If you guys could, or were in charge of the decision of remaking this show, who would you cast as Columbo?
Vincent Gallo.
Oh.
Can Charlie Day do it?
Well, that was his movie, right? Didn't he have a detective movie?
Oh man, do not bring up
No,
that movie.
he didn't even say he's mute in that movie though. Like, can he do the voice? Because if he can do it, and judging by It's Always Sunny, I think he could do the gruff, scruffy voice and have the mannerisms.
He can do that voice that that voice. So if you want Columbo to sound
they
like
were
that, like
considering
Charlie.
doing a reboot around 2012 or 2015, and the one name that came up all the time was Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo, yeah.
Okay.
2010 Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, like Zodiac, Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, in Zodiac, you can kind of picture.
He's
it.
wearing the same kind of coat in that movie, so you can kind of see why people would be thinking that. Yeah.
He apparently has a spot-on Peter Falk impression. Also,
I guess I would be down if they tried it once, but if I don't like it, cancel the whole thing.
burn the tapes.
Yes. Don't release the
it's
rest.
just a matter of time before they decide to pull the trigger, especially with the renewed interest in Columbo. They're releasing these box sets of, like, people are interested now more than they have been in the past 15 or 20 years, I'd say. I think it's going to happen, and I don't trust them to be able to execute it appropriately. Anytime they've brought back like these icons of like TV or whatever, especially if it's on Peacock or something, it's been a swing and a miss. It comes to mind in 2005 or so, they tried to bring back Kolchak, who I mentioned earlier, and they couldn't have cared less about that original incarnation of Carl Kolchak, because the actor who played him, the name is escaping me, but he plays the father in A Christmas Story, and he's a great actor, and he's very like dirty. He smells like he probably works at a flea market or something. He's got that sort of BO vibe about him. And they cast like a very handsome, chiseled model as Kolchak, and then said he's not even really the star. We have Gabrielle Union.
Oh my God!
What?
And she's going to be the face of the project. And we're not even going to call it Kolchak. It's just going to be called Night Stalker. And I found that on archive.org as well, and I watched some of that, and I was just like, this is an abomination. So I would expect them to do... It's not
Kolchak, it's called Trina. Is that what the show is called?
Yes.
No?
You could have said Cole Burner.
Oh wow.
Sorry. Anyway, I expect them to bring out some sort of very poor choice for Columbo if they do bring it back.
Well, if they do, and this is going to sound crazy to a lot of the audience, but I have full faith in Ryan Johnson to be the writer. Have you guys watched Poker Face?
Yeah, I like it.
So it has the same.
I don't mind that actress though.
It's the same form. I love Natasha Lyonne, but it's the same format where like the opening 10 minutes instead of the opening 30 minutes, you don't get to see Poker Face. You see the criminal do the crime, and then it's the same format. They use the same fucking font on screen. And I like when he's not doing Star Wars, when he's writing mysteries, I think he's a pretty good writer. He subverts expectations in ways that I enjoy in those types of stories. So I have full faith in him if they need somebody.
There were some very good episodes of Poker Face. I really liked the special effects episode where I feel like there's some very like specific Kathleen Kennedy
Digs?
possibility. Digs, yeah, there, where, yeah, it's like some murders happen within a like special effects house. So I really enjoyed that episode.
Yeah, I would recommend that show for sure if you like Columbo. It's better than Monk. I watched 3 episodes of Monk and said, okay, so he's Columbo, but he's severely autistic. No, thank you.
Well, Hans, I know Monk was on the same network as Suits and Burn Notice, which you love. Did you ever get into Monk?
No, I never really. No, I was more of a suit, but you know, I need good-looking people on my TV. I don't fucking.
Yeah. Well, you know, Richard Levinson and William Link, they created Columbo. They were behind that. They did Murder, She Wrote as well. I would recommend, this is kind of a deep cut, I guess, but it's also only found on archive.org. You can't find this anywhere else. They decided to do, in the 90s, The Cosby Mysteries, and it's Bill Cosby as just a grumpy detective.
Holy
that is our next review. We have to.
It's Columbo. It's not the same structure as Columbo, but they did 90-minute episodes, and they would drop it every so often. And I think it was a CBS show. And
is Bill Cosby like in a trench coat? Like doing, oh my God, that's awesome! Oh my God!
Just people that mysteriously falling asleep everywhere here.
Yes!
Oh, what is this code with all these pockets containing tiny little bottles of something? Yeah.
He should always start the mystery, and then he ends up finding that he's the perpetrator every time, and then he covers it up.
He knocked himself out and can't remember what happened.
Well, let me ask you guys something, since we were talking about the potential of them rebooting this before. Do you feel like the character is so attached to Peter Falk that it's a losing hand no matter what, or can there really be something that succeeds?
I'm willing to be convinced otherwise. I think like actors have an amazing range or an amazing like ability to embody something that you'd never thought that they could. So like I'm able to be convinced if that's what they want to try, but
well, I think Columbo absolutely must be a 5'5" man who he's not intimidating, and he's a cop who does not carry a gun. Like, he's never going to be in a gun shootout, and that's what disappointed me with Monk, is that it ends episode 1 with a fucking shootout. Like this, you're betraying the spirit. But are there any Hollywood men who look like Columbo who are 5'5" that could pull it off? Because if you're going to pull a Wolverine and make him 6 feet tall all of a sudden, I'm not watching.
I mean, no, Adam Friedland, maybe.
That's why I said Charlie Day. Like, he's about my height.
Yeah, Charlie Day is a smaller guy. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of. I guess I'd put myself in the same boat as you, Erich, in terms of my perspective on it. I'm open-minded to seeing what a new version of that would be. And he's not even. I don't think he's the first Columbo. I think they might have tried it in the late 50s or early 60s.
Oh, really?
Actor. I think so. I might. I don't know. I might be talking out of my ass right now. But if I remember right, there was an attempt at Columbo before Columbo proper. Maybe I could be misremembering, but there was also a stage play around 2007 or 8 in the West End where they did Prescription Murder, and Dirk Benedict from the A-Team played Columbo, and I've seen clips of that, and he's pretty good.
Oh, okay.
As Columbo.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What about Mrs. Columbo? Should we review that next week?
With Janeway as Mrs. Columbo?
I think that'll sooner be rebooted than Columbo.
Man.
Why would they do that? It failed when it came out.
Wait, what? That's a real thing?
Yeah.
That's a real thing.
And I can't imagine how they make the canon, because like Columbo's always talking about his wife. That's one of his things. But to imply that his wife's also a detective is fucking retarded.
Or it's in her spare time, she's going out of the house while he's away.
Well, evidently she has every hobby under the sun, according to what he says to criminals. So where does she find the time?
Apparently, a lot of the Miss Columbo series is not aligned with much of what happens in Columbo in terms of people stacking up things he said, and then she dies at some point in the Columbo series. I don't know.
They outright say that doesn't happen in the series. I think after the Mrs. Columbo show came out, there's episodes that like contradict what they say happens in that show. So yeah.
And while there is a funeral episode for Mrs. Columbo, that is also a gambit, Lowres, because as of the third to last episode, he is still talking about his wife like she's alive.
Wait, he puts on a funeral for his own wife, and it's all like a...
Yeah, he tricks the murderer into thinking that he won.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then he invites them over to his fake house, and they're gonna like poison his coffin. He's like, yeah, I know what you're doing. It's too late.
Columbo needs to do his own funeral as well. Like, he
fake his own death.
The person think that he got murdered, and then he like pops out, and he's like, one more.
He pops out of the coffin. 1 month.
Yeah.
Any other highlights from Columbo? Because I know Erich has to get out of here pretty soon.
Yeah.
Well, can I be the deferring opinion here?
You haven't even watched it, so I don't want to hear it, but please go ahead.
Yeah, but I hate when they revive shit like this that's so character-based with someone that doesn't act like the main character, and then we're supposed to believe that that's the same character that the one we... It's like the Willy Wonka thing, right? Where it's like, oh, now he's kind of horny, but more outwardly horny.
Wait, Gene Wilder wasn't horny?
Weirdly... I think he was creepy and weird, but I don't think his performance at any point was kind of like slick, kind of.
Where
like
did it get horny?
Johnny
was
Depp
it Johnny? You thought Johnny Depp was horny?
Yeah, he had a bunch of little brown midgets around.
Johnny Depp was like the diddled kid, Willy Wonka kind of thing.
Yeah,
he felt more like a castrato or something. I wouldn't say he's
like
horny.
Michael Jackson.
No, but abusers abuse. What is that saying? Abuse.
Hurt people hurt people.
There we go. There it is. Yeah,
that's exactly what we're saying.
Yeah, there's a perfect log line for Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory.
Yeah. And then on this new one that I haven't seen, I've heard that it's not that bad, but we're also supposed to believe that Chalamet at some point was Johnny Depp and at some point became Gene Wilder.
No, I think it's its own reimagining of it.
That's no. Hans is right. It's all one consecutive series.
I watched the
Charlie's,
the Timmy Chalamet musical one. Like, I cannot imagine that character going on to hate children and to torture them. So I have to imagine it's like a different universe.
Well, you saw the Wonka movie, right, Mumkey?
Yeah, I just saw it.
Okay, there's supposed to be something that ties it directly into the Gene Wilder one at the end, no?
I mean, he just kind of builds a similar looking factory.
Yeah, and I think it's just the Oompa Loompas look similar, and he wears the same kind of dress as Gene Wilder does, so.
Wait, isn't that British actor, the Oompa Loompas, all of them?
Hugh Grant.
Yeah,
Love
Hugh
Actually?
Grant.
Yeah.
He's only one of them in the new one. There's only one Oompa Loompa really in the movie.
Oh, it's not like that Indian guy that they used for all of
the Indian guy from Eastbound and Down.
Yeah. Deep Chok. What's his name?
Yeah, Deep Chakra or something.
Deep Roy.
Deep Roy.
Deep Roy. Yeah, Deep Roy. Yeah, because that was another weird decision.
They should cast Deep Roy as Columbo.
I don't think he speaks very good English.
I would say that's too short.
Like, they had to dub over him in Neverending Story. I don't know if he could talk.
Yeah, but I don't think if they remake it, I don't think it's gonna work. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Just because of that, because it's so Peter Falk based that it's just gonna feel like all of those revival 80s shows like Hawaii Five-0, like what's another one? The Eddie Murphy one that they remade with just another guy. Beverly Hills Cop, right? That was a TV show.
Well, he was still in that. They did a pilot for that, and they're doing a movie that comes out, I think, this summer.
With Eddie Murphy, yeah.
Oh. Well, I guess that was more successful than I thought.
Well, Hans, I'm with you. I don't think they should reboot Columbo at all. Like, fuckers, just go watch the old ones. There's a shit ton of them. It would take you a full week of your life to watch all of them. So we don't need any new ones.
No matter what they do, if they do make new ones, they should keep the format. They should keep the 90 minutes long episodes. They should keep the it starts with the killer and then you eventually get to Columbo. Like, that is so inherent to the thing for me, unless you're saying that they've changed that sometimes.
Yeah, probably because of the way that people consume things now. I don't think they will be brave enough.
Screw that.
And also, where are the crimes going to be? Oh, this child was TikTok dancing close to the edge of the building, and then they fell. But all of us, you know what I mean? Like I I feel like the 70s were so much more interesting for the things that you guys were mentioning regarding technology when it comes to like crime and all that. Now it's so difficult to do a crime show that's interesting like that and put it on modern day, just because, you know, there's cameras everywhere, there's DNA everywhere, there's your spit, you can fart somewhere and your DNA is there, you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. I mean,
he shouldn't have a cell phone for sure, because he has to ask people to use their phone.
Yeah, this episode, like, I realized, wow, in the 70s, if your car breaks down, you might just be fucked. Yep. Like, you have to beg strangers driving by. What if you were a woman? How terrifying. Like, it's like a little woman whose car breaks down and you have nothing you can do, nobody you can call.
Well, what was that old hitchhiking slogan? Ass or grass, you got to pay one way.
Yeah.
So that would be that. I'm glad Columbo didn't have to pay ass to get driven to the repair shop.
Does grass mean like
Columbo,
weed? Like you just have a pile of weed on you in case you need a ride?
People that, yeah.
Columbo's gonna be wearing that Apple Vision Pro headset, and he's gonna be like, "Oh, let me check what this person's been tweeting right now." And he's gonna be doing this while people wait. Yeah, that's what you're gonna get.
If you want modern Columbo, just watch Poker Face. It's good enough. Like, I really like it.
Well, joke's on you guys. There is a modern Columbo I have just discovered here from a quick search on IMDb. We have a 2017 TV special in France. Starring Martin Lamont as Columbo.
Oh, shit.
I'm guessing it's in French.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Hans, you want to pull up the poster real quick?
Sure.
Columbo Morte Sous prescription. So there's
Why did they add this weird curly mustache to Columbo? Because he's French now. Isn't that like an old TV meme from 4chan? Like they Photoshop a movie poster with like a really bad mustache and say, "Why does the French dub have a mustache?"
Oh, damn. Martin Lamont. Oh, man.
Okay.
When did Richard Levinson and William Link die? Because I don't think they agreed to this.
Levinson died, I think, in the 80s.
You need an actor that has one eye, right?
I mean, I don't think that's it's like never pointed out. That's just like part of Peter Falk, right? In the show Columbo, they never point out that he has a fake eye, do they?
Listen, I just don't think, Momkey, that Hollywood is as ableist as you are. So I think that if you have a disabled person playing the main character in the 70s, how are you going to cast an able-bodied person?
Okay, so we get Dan Crenshaw as Columbo.
Yeah.
That's what you're...
Oh, that shitty senator?
Yeah.
I think he's too busy sucking Netanyahu's cock to do anything else.
No, you have to cast someone, and then the actor has to get his eye removed for the role.
Someone would do
so
that.
They can,
to play Columbo.
When Ben Mendelsohn was cast in The Place Beyond the Pines, the character was supposed to be a hell of a lot older that he was playing, and he decided to book a dentist appointment to have all his teeth removed.
No, he didn't.
He did, and the director at the last minute, his wife told him, "You can't let him do that. Don't let him actually do that."
Yeah, for this movie that's gonna like make $5 million globally, gonna take all your fucking teeth out.
A movie for like 15 minutes, and he was about to get all his teeth removed.
Oh my God. Who does he think he is? Fucking Shia LaBeouf on everything? Where he just gets a permanent tattoo, or like?
Wait,
didn't he get a? I think he got a couple
creeper
of
tattoo
teeth taken out. But didn't he get a couple of teeth taken out for Fury or something like that too?
Yep. Yeah, he killed some cats for the David Ayer movie that no one watched. That was fucking horrible.
He killed some cats.
He went around with a shotgun or something and killed cats in a car while FKA Twigs was driving them.
He was playing a cholo, like a gangster cholo, in a horrendous movie.
Hell
That's fucked up.
We need to bring back brownface, big time.
Whatever happened to don't fuck with cats? Like, shouldn't... I guess 4chan has been fucking with Shia for quite a bit, actually. Never mind. I forgot his whole, he will not divide us. Let's try to find the secret webcam thing that was going on.
Well, that guy's trans now, right? The fuck with cats guy. He's in... No, Luca, whatever his name is.
Oh, wait, I thought he died. What the fuck? Where'd he go to
he's
jail?
In jail, and he's a woman now. Like, he identifies as a woman now. Because
trying to get into the better prison.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you? First thing I would do.
Honestly,
let me grow my horrible hair.
To be completely quite honest, folks, if I'm going to be spending 20 years in prison, I'd rather be hanging out with the bros than a bunch of ugly bitches. Like, the women who go to prison are not the ones you want to hang out with. You might as well just go exercise with, like, the cholos or something.
Yeah, he was gay, too, so he's depriving himself of any sex opportunities that he would probably be gleefully hopping at.
I like that Monkey thinks he would belong with the cholos in jail.
I mean, I would at least try.
Like,
I would get along with them more than like some butch women who killed their husband.
They would call you They would call you Monkey though, because they can pronounce that M. So you'd be like, "Andale, monkey." Hey, monkey.
I'll take it. I just saw a Monkey Man. You can call me Monkey Man all day. Let's wrap this one up,
by the way,
because we are trying to make this under an hour. So do you guys want to have any final thoughts or plug anything?
A movie is a podcast about the actors. I did quickly ask you, how is Monkey Man? I know a lot of people are blowing smoke up Dev Patel's ass right now, sucking his dick over this movie. Is it as good as people are making it out to be?
So my issue with a lot of action movies is that guns are boring, and this movie recognizes that, and most of the action and violence has no guns in it. So I was way down for it. Like a scene where you're handcuffed and a guy is attacking you with an axe. That's the kind of action movie I like to watch, and there's a lot of shit like that in this movie.
Okay.
None of that gun foo from John Wick that is over choreographed, and I don't feel like it's raw and real.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people have compared the trailer to looking like John Wick, which I can kind of.
They talk about John Wick in the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like
what?
There's a little. Yeah, like it's they know about John Wick, but also
shared universe.
India comes across as the biggest shithole in the world, and I've never been so glad to not be Indian after watching this movie. My God. Well, that's about it.
I mean, as opposed to all the positive depictions of India in media.
When I go on X, they try to convince me every country but America is good, and they're wrong.
Yeah, I think I just saw something about 6 Indian men gang raping a Komodo dragon.
Oh, wow.
Holy shit, that's impressive. I'm not even gonna hate on that. What the fuck? Like,
that's pretty cool.
Nerves of steel.
I didn't know dragons had a pussy.
Yeah, well, if they even use, but yeah, because you can use a mouth, right? You get poison on your penis. Your little
the
Indian
Komodo
penis.
Yeah, check out Movies and B-Bang, my favorite podcast. They just had a new episode with Wolfman and somebody else on there, right?
And Kenny Dorsey, we realized during the show, oh fuck, we were supposed to be recording the Columbo episode right now. If you get to 3/4 in, there is that moment where you're like,
shit.
oh fuck,
Yeah.
Monkey just messaged me.
Well, it's all good. There's nothing else I'd rather do on a Friday night than talk about Columbo. So It all worked out. Erich, what do you want to plug?
Yeah, you can find me on x.com at TZARREVAN, and then on Letterboxd Rebel138. Go ahead and check me out on there. I just watched The Aristocats, which has a very racist segment with Siamese cat playing the piano with chopsticks. So
They kind of look like Hans, if you think about it.
a little bit, yeah.
Hans, are you really 6'3"?
2.
Oh my God.
Lowres, okay, so this is something that I mentioned before, which is my ex used to give me shit for all the time, because Lowres created my IMDb page and he entered my height as 6'5". and when she saw
that's
that,
just customary. That's just, you always like put it up by 3 inches or so. Yeah.
When she saw that, she was like, "Why are you lying about your height?" And I was like, "Wow, what are you talking about?" And she showed me, and I was like, "What the fuck? Lowres did this. I didn't do this shit." Yeah.
What else did you put on there, Lowres?
I don't think I put anything salacious. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have done descriptions of Hans, describing him as an internationally renowned comedian and entertainer. I don't have to do the work. Our fan base and audience on Discord will do a lot of that for us. So
nice.
That's about it.
Erich, are you excited for later this year when these two gentlemen's fine film, Mass State Lottery, comes out and we get to finally review it?
I'm so looking forward to watching that movie and figuring out what the hell I've been hearing about for so long.
Yeah, what is the ETA again, Lowres? Because I think in January I asked you if I could get an advanced screening, and now it's April.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Christmas movie, so
God damn it!
The Shane Black excuse.
Yeah. So I would say keep your eyes peeled for around then, but I don't know. I'm wheeling and dealing. I'm trying to get something solidified this month with a distributor and figure out how we're going to tackle putting the movie out. If we're going to do any like Kevin Smith style boots on the ground, we're going to be taking it to venues and screening it, doing Q&A. That sort of thing is all going to be figured out pretty soon, and I will hopefully have something definite within the next month or two.
Should we do the Kevin Smith strategy of like when you do the slow release, should I like protest the film and try to get a big media buzz? Like, don't let anybody see this movie. And
I think
stand outside the theater.
Yes, if you just want to have a sign with Hans's face and a big
X to it.
Big, like,
yes, I think that would be good.
Put a Hitler mustache on him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I think that's about it for Columbo. Go check out this episode and all the other ones. And that's about it for me.
All right. Thank you for listening.
All right.